meet with other people from time to time, talk to other, I think, having conversations with other guys who are on that same path as well, just to fortify me, because I think, none of us are that strong. I don't care how many times you go to mass. I don't care. You can't, it's help me through this day, Lord. Help me to be, on that path of holiness.
Welcome to Apostolicam Actuositatem, an interview series on effective apostolic activity for the 21st century. My name is Christopher Pereira. I'm the CEO of Tepeyac Leadership.
Hello, everybody, and I'm Andreas Widmer, Director of the Sioka Center for Principled Entrepreneurship.
And this morning, we are happy to be with Tim VAn Damm, who's already joined us, and we give you a welcome, Tim. Thank you for being here at Apostolicam Actuositatem.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Appreciate you having me.
Would you please get us started by simply sharing a little bit about your background and what you do professionally?
Sure. I grew up in the Hudson Valley, New York. I spent 15 years in Boston, where I was blessed to have met my good friend Andreas, and then now I live here in San Diego, in the North County of San Diego, about 20 minutes north of downtown. And my profession, I've had a number of professions along the way, but what I've been doing is very high-end luxury residential real estate. So that's what I do.
Can you talk a little bit about maybe your faith journey? Because I think everybody would enjoy hearing about how over time and over your career, your faith has quite deepened alongside with your professional abilities, let's say.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, so I grew up in a very 70s, 80s, feel good Jesus, whatever you think, whatever you feel, Catholicism. And I always had a good experience with the church. I was always, involved with youth groups and things like that. But and I went to Catholic school my entire life. But it was all kind of up here and, emotional. But the idea of truth, this is actually either true or it's not, that really never dawned on me. It was always like, well, I agree with the church on this, but not so much on this. And this is what, so you're kind of living two parallel, lives. And I did that for many, many years, and moved to Boston after school, started a young adult group there. And again, was sort of living very much parallel lives, and didn't see anything wrong with it, because that's the way everyone, I always knew that's kind of just the way it was. Hit kind of a crisis. A number of things happened in about a 10-day period, which Andreas was there to witness. And basically everything just started falling apart one by one. And it was really kind of God bringing me to my knees. And in the midst of that, I had a very faithful person a number of people that God put in my path, and just said, one of which said, hey, I'm going to do a 9-day Mass novena. So 9 days of petition and 9 days of Thanksgiving. And it'd be great if you came to the daily Mass for 9 days. And I started doing that, and essentially just had this radical reconversion where, I went from, it was kind of, you start looking at, it was almost like somebody just turned the lights on, and it was very abrupt and sudden. And it just kept going. I mean, it would be to the point that, I get together with guys like Andreas. Okay, what's the weekly update? Like, what happened this week? It was just, this happened, this just really kind of on fire. And it was, I started going to daily Mass. I started praying the rosary. I didn't even know how to pray the rosary. I had to go, and I knew it was Hail Marys and Our Fathers, but I didn't know the mysteries. And so, started looking into that, going to confession, really just very, very fervent, very, very quickly. But that conversion process also takes a long time, and it's a lifelong journey. So all those behaviors didn't go away overnight. But the idea that, well, this is true, and if this is true, then I have to change my life, was very clear. And then, but I don't really know how to change my life. And so, Lord, help me to do that. And very much the sacraments of confession and the Eucharist were very prominent, because it's like, I'd want to receive in a state of grace, then I'd fall, then I'd run back to confession, then I'd go to Mass. And so it was kind of like, sort of inching along on that path of holiness.
Tim, and today you are in commercial real estate. I'm sorry, in residential, luxury residential real estate. And some people might think, well, once you get to the point where you're really into your career, you sort of check in and check out, and your faith stays outside of the office. I'm pretty sure that's not been the case for you. So how do you integrate your Catholic faith into your professional life these days?
Well, I mean, I just did a promotional video, and the first thing that I said was pray as though everything depended on God, work as though everything depended on you. That was the very first thing I say in the video. So, and that's it's on my board. You guys can't see it, but it's right here. And then, you know, I've got like Saint Joseph here with me on my desk. You know, I'm not. I deal with obviously people from all different walks of life, but I try to, my routine and essentially in the morning is I go drop my kids off for work. More often, I would say 95% of the time, I'll go to mass right after that. And then I'll kind of shoot the breeze with my buddies and, you know, people, parishioners and things like that. And then I'll go to the office. So I try to start it, you know, with the mass. And then I have every Friday, which is today, I've got an adoration hour that I've kind of kept from 12 to 1. So I try to carve that out. And, you know, there's days when I can't make it. I might send my assistant, I might, you know, get a replacement, but I'm responsible for that hour. So I really do try to, you know, be there. So, you know, really integrating that. And then if you just never know, I mean, if there's, I have a client right now that her husband just passed away, and, you know, she's at the funeral today, and I was on the phone with her half an hour last night talking about God and faith and, you know, things like that. So you just, you know, I think these opportunities get put in your path. And in my profession, it's when you get this narrow kind of sliver into people's lives. And so they've got, you know, they're buying $5, $6, $7, $10 million houses, but you're getting a peek behind the curtain of what's going on in the marriage, what's going on in the family, what the pains are, and so there's these opportunities that, you know, come up from time to time. And I think it's just being open to that. And it's sort of like when the Holy Spirit sets the pick, so to speak, in basketball, like, you know, don't be scared to take the shot, right? You got a wide open lane, take the shot.
You talked about adoration. I know that it's not one of your claims to fame, but it's certainly one of the claims that you have with Jesus is that you brought perpetual adoration to Boston. Can you tell us a bit about this? I mean, it seems like adoration is still one of the central points of your spirituality, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, that's, you know, I never knew anything about adoration. And then as I went deeper and really saw that, look, this is either a piece of, you know, we look at the Eucharist, right? You got the Eucharist and the monstrance, and it's either, you know, we're all either staring idiots looking at a piece of bread and, oh, look at this bread. Thank you, Lord. Thank you. So it's either nothing or it's God. You're literally in the presence of God, right? And so that for me, that became a very big part of it. And I would start, and that's why I started looking for adoration chapels in Boston. And there's nothing. I mean, there was during the day, you know, they had the oblates in the Back Bay had adoration in 2 different places, but often I was working till 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night. So I would start looking, okay, there's got to be one that's perpetual. There's got to be some place I can go at night to pray, because and I would find that there was some outside the city, but not in the city itself. So I would drive down to a little place called Whitman, which is about 45 minutes or 40 minutes south. And I found this chapel, and I would pray. It was locked. I would pray on the way down and say, Lord, just, you know, please open the door. Have somebody open the door for me. And inevitably I would get in every time. And then, so I kind of had it on my heart. I wanted to do that in Boston. But at the time I was traveling a lot, and so it didn't really come together. And then I have been kind of discerning priesthood for a little while. I was actually living in a rectory and trying to, you know, figure it out, and felt that, no, that's not what I'm being called to. So I was getting ready to move back to my house in Boston. And it became very clear that I actually brought somebody to the adoration who was a drug addict, who had been, you know, gotten clean. And I mean, lesbian, drug addict, you know, you name it, Jewish by trade, like every single thing that was, you know, not the typical person. And she walked out. She walked out of there and she said, I've never felt so much peace in my life, and walked out of the parking lot with, you know, just praying the song that I given her and all this books. And so, and that I called from that parking lot, and it was like everything was lined up. Everyone's like, yep. The timing was right. And then we just we launched we put the date on the calendar. It was the Feast of the Assumption, and so we did a 54-day Rosary Novena leading up to that. So 27 days of petition, 27 days of Thanksgiving, and then I invited the Cardinal, got him locked in, and so then I figured, well, I'm going to be humiliated if I get the Cardinal on the calendar and he's coming and we're not ready. So then I just kind of put together a team of people and we did it, and invited the nuns. That was the only place in Boston that had been perpetual Eucharistic adoration, but it hadn't been going for 40 years. So we found the nuns that were gone for a while, and then the kicker was after we launched it. In the midst of this, I reached out to the guys that did the spotlight thing that blew the whole church scandal open. Michael Paulson, I think his name was. And anyway, so I said to him, "Look, you were the one that with the light and the darkness. You put this on, and this is a good thing going on." And so, long story short, he goes, "Okay, we'll run an article on it." It ended up Jesus was on the front page of the Boston Globe because there was a picture of people praying, and then you could see the monstrance in the background. So literally, it was not just a side story, which they thought maybe it'll make the blog, but it was on the front page of the Boston Globe. So that was kind of the icing on the cake.
It's incredible, Tim, what we can do when we just open ourselves to God's grace, right? To help advance the mission of the church. But it's a lot of joy to be a Christian. It's not always easy. Can you tell me a little bit about maybe the challenges of carrying out apostolic activity as a Catholic professional in a state like California?
Yeah. Well, I think there's California is like, and people, when I was moving here, they said, well, what are you doing? What are you moving to California? I said, well, I grew up in New York. I moved to Massachusetts, right? And then I'll go to California. I don't know what it's like to be surrounded by, like-minded conservative state or anything like that. So, but I think within that, I'm very blessed in that I've got a really good, strong core group of men, that are really just doing some amazing things. And so that's been for me very important, especially as a married man. Andreas knew me largely as a single guy, and now as a married guy, I think it's easy to kind of get in your own family. And so that's been kind of critical and sort of staying with that. The challenges are, daily. People think you're totally nuts. I've got 5 kids, 1 on the way. That alone is a witness, because everyone thinks you're crazy if you get it. Oh my God, you know how that happens? This and that. It's like, are you done yet? Right. So I think that's a witness. And then also just not, especially with kids, it's sort of saying, hey, we're not doing this. We're not, just sort of setting those boundaries. But I'm pretty bold about it. If people ask me, I say it. If I'm being interviewed, I'll say it. I don't really care. As far as what it is, but there's certainly times when that you're not surrounded by friendlies in general, here in California. And so I think that's it's challenging, but we have to be in the world, but not of the world.
Yeah, we're actually this podcast is about that, about apostolic activity as lay people, and so how do you see this? So there's the universal call to holiness, right? And we're all called to this, and even the person next to you who doesn't have faith or has fallen away, there's still this call to universal holiness. Now, holiness is of course a gift from God and the Spirit, but we can be open to help other people. And you talked a little bit earlier about this, of how do you witness to that and help people on their path to holiness? You do that in your family, for your children, with your wife and so on, but what about beyond that? Like in
one of the things that I do, we have a monthly men's group at the parish, and there's a lot of, I took that over a number of years ago, and I've intentionally brought in speakers that I think are going to challenge the men, and then I speak at the beginning, and I always try to just give kind of an overview of the saints and what's going on, and a challenge to holiness. So it's only once a month. But that was that's one place that I feel like there's a lot of there's guys there that are very fervent, but there's a whole lot of guys there that were just like I was, right? Which is hey, I'm a pretty good guy. I go to mass on Sunday, and I don't beat my wife. I don't, and it's, it just, you don't really think about that. So that's been for me, as far as apostolic and a regular thing, that's something that I've done consistently now for a number of years, and I've seen lives change through that. So that's kind of my I would say apostolic work, so to speak, and then just really day-to-day life, when God puts somebody in front of you, it's like, okay, do I slough that off and go after my work, or do I take the time with this one guy and share what's happened in my own life, and how be that hand of Christ. So yeah, that's apart from I volunteer here and there at different things, but that's my steady, consistent thing with the church there.
Tim, so this series of interviews is watched a lot by young professionals whose lives are as busy as ours, and sometimes for them is difficult to figure out how to integrate the faith into a busy professional's lives. Of course, those of us that have a little more gray hair can have a lot more experience with that. So you're familiar probably with the concept of a plan for spiritual life. Something that's very helpful to young professionals is to learn about other people's plans for spiritual life. How do you literally integrate your faith into your daily and weekly lives? Tell me a little bit about how your day starts. At what points of the day do you pray or go to the sacraments throughout the week? This sort of thing.
Sure. Well, I think daily mass is probably the number one, right? So my days, in a perfect world, my day starts at 4:30 in the morning. I go for my workout and I come back and then I get my things, going, but that doesn't always, that hasn't been happening lately. So, get my kids out in the morning, we'll drive all the kids to school, drop them off, and then, go to mass, talk to people afterwards. And then I come in and get after my day from there. As far as throughout the day, I think inviting God into the moment, and sort of asking, what do you want me to do in this moment right now? I mean, I've got a situation right now where I was driving over and I was having that conversation. Lord, I've got this deal that's in hand. I might have this going on. I don't know. I don't want to. Should I push and gamble, or should I take the safe one? And what? Because I'm playing with other people's money, right? So what's the right call here? So I think that's a big part of it. And then also just trying to meet with other people from time to time, talk to other. I think having conversations with other guys who are on that same path as well, just to fortify me, because I think none of us are that strong. I don't care how many times you go to mass. I don't care. You can't. It's help me through this day, Lord. Help me to be, on that path of holiness. And then I, pray with I'm home every night for dinner. So, there's a few times I'll have to go out for a work event or something, but I'm home for dinner. And then, I'm praying with the kids at meals. And then afterwards, we always do, I have the app on my phone. I forget what it's called now. What is it called? The Laudate, Laudate, and that's got the daily readings. It's got the saint of the day. So I always read the reading of the day with my kids, and then I explain it. So that it helps me too to internalize and talk about scripture. And then I'll also read the saint of the day, and then I'll explain that too, and just sort of talking. So there's a connection with the saints and with the gospel, every single day.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but can you give us a couple of your favorite spiritual books that have helped you on your journey?
Sure. There's so many of them. For me, I was a lot with the apparitions and things like that. That was a big part of it. There's one book that I love, the Soul of the Apostolate. I think for anybody doing work that's this kind of work, I think it's required reading. I also love The Imitation of Christ. That's a great daily bite-sized thing. And then the other one that we're actually been doing with my men's group recently is The Spiritual Combat by I think it's Lorenzo Scopoli. That's again bite-sized, pieces, but very, very powerful there. So, those are just a couple that are, I think very practical and easy to kind of pick up and put down.
That's a great list. Those are classics, Tim.
Yeah, right.
As it is usually the case with our interviews, whenever they're getting the most interested is when we need to wrap them up. So,
Okay.
well, thank you again for talking to us, to Andreas and I today, and everybody watching. Thank you for watching. Please share, comment, and like this video so we can attain its maximum exposure. Thank you so much, Tim.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Yeah, thank you, Tim, and thank you all for watching. It's really a privilege to have your attention for a few minutes on your busy day. And we'll see you next time on Apostolicam Actuositatem. Thank you all for helping us inspire effective and apostolic activity of lay Catholic professionals in the world.